Remove all add-ons with no exceptions. 100%. Please agree with me. Please.
What I mean, though, is a lot of players genuinely depend on add-ons to play the game. Shout
That's the problem, though, isn't it?
out to these guys. The first group I thought of when he said, oh, remove all add-ons, were the role players.
I agree that they do. And I think that's why Blizzard should add it into the game as a baseline. Just the same way as they did with a lot of the features. Like, for example, and I think Trial of the Crusader, Blizzard did their first version of like raid frames, and it was amazing. And people had already had raid frames from like Xpearl and stuff like that. But whenever Blizzard made theirs, then it was accessible to everybody. So I think that really it's about creating, again, a uniform experience that people can enjoy. But if you, like, you can't say remove all add-ons without also at the same time saying Blizzard needs to be more proactive in adding the tools that add-ons are used to solve.
At least speaking of raiding, add-ons and WeakAuras combat related did a lot of lifting to make you better. And I guess just pretty simply, the less good you are as a player, the more those things helped you be better, right? So the skill difference between the best players in your raid and the worst players in your raid and the best players in the world and the more average players and guilds and all of those things, the gap should... I mean, I don't even understand an argument really of how the gap wouldn't be bigger. It just will, because those things were things that everyone used, and just objectively, those help you more the less good you are. The best players are the ones getting the most nerfed. Okay, explain that. I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm wondering what angle you're coming at. Like, I think the best players are getting the most nerfed would make sense if, like, I think that is the only way you could think that is probably if you are just fully buying the fake news that like the game is getting way simpler and like classes are getting a lot easier. Because that was just pushed majorly over the last week. So I mean, if someone believed that, it wouldn't be because they're stupid. It's because that's what people were saying.
It's too hard. There's too much going on in the game. There's too much. And again, the reason why people say there's not too much is because, number one, a lot of these people played the game for like 10 years. And so it's like, of course it's not too much for you. You understand everything about the game. You know everything about it. And number two, you have add-ons that are telling you everything. Like, look at this. Like, I bet a lot of people, if they had to do this boss with no add-ons, they would have a very different experience. So like, this is the issue that happens, is that like it's again like this artificial difference between like difficulty. It would be unplayable. Yeah, it would be extremely hard. So I'm sure that like people probably could do it, but it would be like twice as hard. I think that if you want to have a hard boss fight, that's okay. But the way that they do it and the way that people have to like solve the problems with like add-ons and shit makes the boss fights like it's like you're not really... Like, how can you accurately judge the difficulty of something whenever you have 3 programs installed on your computer that make it easier and you've played it for 10 years? It's like people that say Dark Souls is easy. Like, yeah, I think Dark Souls is easy. I've played it for 300 hours. A new person isn't going to think that. I think also it makes it more accessible for people to not have to deal with like 50 different buttons. Like, in a lot of times, like, I think that one of the best high points of class design was actually in Legion. And I think that Legion was such a high point because of the prune of WoD. Like, WoD after the prune was bad, but with Legion adding in the, like, Mists of Pandaria, in my opinion, was way too much. I thought it was way, way, way too much. And like, Legion was like that perfect middle ground where like every class felt complete and it felt good, but there wasn't like an overabundance of skills. And there were still a lot of things that you could press. Like add-ons, I feel like every expansion, add-ons have become a bigger and bigger part of the game. And at this point, it's like they are the game. Like you have like WeakAuras, deadly boss mods, like I guess the UI is kind of fixed, to be fair. You have your details. You have like all these fucking spreadsheets and all this stuff you have to keep up with. Bag on, yeah, ERT, like what the fuck, man? Like,
Scripe came at it from the angle of worse players were not able to utilize the add-ons to the same extent that you guys are. That is a good point. W Scribe. That is a very good point. That is a very, very good point. I mean, I can't fully relate to that, but I can tell you that, like, you tune into some guild progressing the raid, and you see them using your weak aura pack, and you see they have, like, 6 weak auras enabled for that boss that are not relevant. They don't need to track, but it's just on their screen, and they're, like basically, weak auras done well are there to, like, efficiently give you information. But for a lot of people that don't take time to actually, like, make sure the weak auras look good for you, all of our weak auras have a bunch of custom options that make them bars or icons or do whatever you want, ignore certain conditions based on how you take the information, and our players heavily update that. But if you just rip the liquid pack just straight up and you just, like, trust that it all works, that's not really, you're not making weak auras work as well for you as they could, right?
Whenever you have 20 people in the same spot, adding in 5 simultaneous mechanics that will cause a group failure, it is not fun to do progress with 99% of people. And the 1% it is fun to do progress with, there's a bunch of other problems that can occur on top of that. So, no, it's not fucking fun. No, most people don't want to do this. It's exhausting. Especially whenever you're playing the game and you're constantly, it's like you're, what was that game? Bop It? The one like the where it goes like, you hit the thing, goes like, beep, 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 burp, burp. Like, that's what you're hearing. You're hearing like, move, boo, like some fucking sonar sound, and then, oh, there's an alarm bell. It's like you're in the White House and somebody just got onto the premises. That you're hearing this all the time doing a boss fight. Like, it's got to increase people's blood pressure. Bop it, pull it, spin it. Yeah, what the fuck? So, like, whenever I say remove all add-ons, this is my realist take, because I think that there would be no way that you could implement this rule with having gray area. And I think that it would be better for the game to have no add-ons than to have the culture that we have now with add-ons. But I think in practice, it would be impossible to draw a distinction between add-ons that are problematic versus unproblematic. I would even be okay if there was like a community accepted add-ons, like just for a bag add-on or something like that. But where I draw the line completely is with combat add-ons. I think there should be literally 0 combat add-ons.
Maybe the reality is, which would make all of the reaction this week pretty comical in hindsight, is that the game's going to feel like pretty fucking similar, except they're just not going to make a weak aura boss for like at least a couple tiers where you would have felt like you needed a weak aura for it, which is something they've actually done before on accident. Like, we've just done raids where there wasn't a weak aura boss, which actually makes me think of something. Whenever Blizzard is like adding things to the game, making other stuff not work, you have to ask yourself the question, did this get removed because they think it's bad or because it's collateral damage with things they actually want to be gone? So let's ask ourselves that with reminders. Do they think reminders are good for the game? Like, it's not currently removed. Like, for example, you have to ask yourself, do you think Blizzard would ever put reminders in the game? I don't know if they would ever do that, but I don't know if reminders are bad for the game. Like, if you're just some random person doing your weekly raid night on a Saturday and like you just want a reminder to press your major raid cooldown, like Aura Mastery, like 8 minutes into a fight. But yeah, you don't have to remember exactly when you could do it. You could have a little reminder tell you for shit like that, you know? Like that, there's nothing, I don't think that's bad. Like, I don't think Blizzard would dislike that. I mean, it's probably a reason they don't remove it.
I think Blizzard is just focused too much on making the current player base happy and not actually attracting a new audience. I think that's what the issue is. Because, like, if you watch people play retail WoW, unless you play the game, you don't know what's even happening on the screen. The game is so tremendously over-designed and unnecessarily complex that it's not fun to play. Now, that's my personal opinion. Obviously, other people think the game right now is amazing and they love the game. They think the game is great, and I'm happy for them. But I don't feel that way. It's just stressful. There's so much going on. There's so much bloat in the game. What is this?
Max, do you think it's a coincidence that a lot of the hardest bosses have been bosses that WeakAuras couldn't carry you on? No, not really, because there's been some of the hardest bosses ever have had... Like, WeakAuras do one... When people are talking about WeakAuras being annoying, aren't they always talking about exactly one thing? They're talking about a mechanic that requires people to go to a specific spot, and what the WeakAura does, is it assigns everyone a spot rather than you having to figure it out via voice. Can anyone think of another scenario of like WeakAuras are playing the game for you and it's literally not doing exactly that? Like, that is it. They can also still be really hard. Like, do you guys remember Jailer P1? Dude, Jailer P1 with it telling you which place to take your bombs was still hard as fuck. But that's because Blizzard knew that you would be able to, this is the whole arms race thing. Blizzard knew you would have a WeakAura telling you where to go, so they made it like that. For example, if a WeakAura didn't tell you where to go, instead of having 3 seconds to dunk your bomb in the hole, you would have had like 6. That's how like an alternate reality version of that mechanic would have looked like. Like, clearly they designed Brood Twister, you would have had 3 or 4 more seconds to find a spot than the amount of time you had. The reason it was the way it was they have to find a way to challenge you, and they know you have to.
And you can't raid on your main character because it doesn't do enough DPS, so you're trying to power level your fucking alt, and you're trying to get a conduit, and you're trying to get a conduit energy.
I raided in WoW for over 10 years. I'm pretty sure I could raid if I wanted to. I don't know like what WoW players think about raids, but if you really think that being able to clear a mythic raid 2 months after its release is anything more than a participation reward, I don't know what to tell you, man. Prove you can? I did for 10 years. I did it 30 times, but I can't do it 31. Is that all of the critiques on what I'm saying about the game are not critiques about what I'm saying? They're critiques of me. They're saying, you're bad. They're saying, you don't raid. What about what I'm saying? What about the argument that I'm putting forward? Is the argument that I am making true or not? Because am I crazy? Like, every single person who's tried to counter what I'm saying, it's all just a personal attack. There are no actual arguments against what I'm saying. There are just personal attacks that try to discredit me because, and I'll tell you why. The reason, you want to know why? It's because I'm right. Because if people could directly counter what I'm saying, they would. But they can't do that, so they just say I'm bad instead because it's the next best thing. And I just think that Blizzard can't remove combat add-ons exclusively, and they would have to remove all of them. And I would rather them remove all add-ons completely. I want you guys to understand that for a lot of new players, the prospect of having to download a third-party application that then downloads additional mods onto your computer in order for you to play a video game as a baseline is very unsettling. Like, I remember whenever I had to do it in 2006, and I was like, is this like a virus or something like that? It's like it gives people pause immediately. And I think just asking people to do that at all is a bit uncomfortable. And also, not to mention the fact that it's fucking annoying. So I think that really, whenever I'm talking about removing add-ons, I am talking about it from like kind of both extremes, because I think that like middle ground players don't really care a lot about add-ons. But I think that they're incredibly toxic for like high-end players and also really low-end players. Because for low-end players, now this is like, you know, this is a person that's like just started the game recently, and now they have to learn about like, you know, like add-ons and all this other stuff. It's like basically an extra hidden iceberg of like learning curve that doesn't even have anything to do with the game. So it makes it really hard for like a newer player to get into the game. And at the same time, it creates such a contrived high-end player experience with all the add-ons and WeakAuras and plugins and tools that they have, that the way that they play the game is so different that the developers literally have to make the game around that context. And those are the people that really get damaged by add-ons. Now, I think that add-ons decrease the overall quality of the game collectively, but I think that those extremes of players, like the bottom and the top 10% of players, are the most negatively affected by add-ons. You're a battle pet transmog mount farmer, not a real raider. Stop trying to critique a game you don't play. Well, don't you think that means that my opinion matters more? Because I'm the kind of person that would play, but I stopped playing. I mean, I play a lot of games. I played WoW for, I have 35,000 hours in the game. Like, me playing the game for 35,000 hours and raiding seriously for 15 years, 10, 15 years, like, if that's not enough, then I'm sorry, but you're just coping. Like, I know it better than almost anybody. If I didn't, then people wouldn't have watched my videos for 10 years about the game. But I do think, like, my add-on point is a lot stronger. And I think that I can really, like, I can argue that a lot more because it's not just, like, my opinion. Like, my opinion is I like 40-man raids, but I do genuinely think that add-ons are bad. Getting rid of add-ons would require an impossible amount of dev work to compensate. I mean, yeah, but don't you think it's important to invest into that, into the future of the game, if you think that it's problematic? Because I think that it is. I think it's worth it. I really do. I think it's such a big deal to do and make that experience better for like the average player. Those poor devs. Yeah, and I think it's insane. How? Just get rid of Mythic Plus? I mean, I don't know if that's really going to solve it.